So I'm Caroline, the Wellbeing Practitioner at Carers in Bedfordshire, and this is session 2 of managing challenging behaviour with primary school aged children. So we're on session 2, which is enhancing your relationship and supporting children's communication. And for this session, we're going to focus on something called special time. We're going to go through the working together agreement, a quick check-in, the importance of interaction and playful opportunities, special time with your child, and then we're going to do some feedback at the end. So just kind of general what we went over in the last session. So if there's any technical difficulties at all, we'll just close the meeting and just join again using the same meeting link. If there is a new meeting link, I'll send out an email to everyone with the new meeting link in as well. Thank you for kind of being here on time. That's really helpful. In regards to confidentiality, share whatever you feel comfortable sharing, but whatever is kept in the group, please kind of do keep it confidential. Mute yourself when you're not speaking. This avoids any feedback. From my side, I have a dog, so if you hear any barking, that's just working from home. That's just kind of the way it is. So I apologise in advance. But yeah, it's helpful if you can mute yourself when not speaking to avoid any other feedback. Same with kind of phones. If you have another phone or anything that goes off, feel free to answer it. Just kind of mute yourself, turn your camera off, and pop off, and you can pop back on. And then participate and take turns if you feel comfortable sharing. And just to reiterate, it's a kind of a safe environment. There's no judgment here. There's no right way to parent. There's no perfect parent. So just kind of trying to help each other out. Got another person attending. So we're just going to have a quick check-in, thinking about how the past week has been and if you remember anything from session 1. So does anyone feel comfortable sharing?
I think for me it's that what's stuck in my head also a lot is the remembering to recharge.
Yes, yeah, really important.
Yeah, because it can be very draining. And like before, sometimes it feels like you have one episode and then it can have a rolling on effect. So there could be several incidences, but you go from one to another, and then you just don't stop in between to, like you say, recharge yourself and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And what have you found, what's been helpful for you to recharge, or what do you find has helped you kind of have those moments of calm between incidents?
I think for me, totally walking away and going upstairs, you know, for a period of time.
Yeah, that's fab. Yeah, great. Thank you for sharing, Linda. Rach, can I just take your detail just for me to write it down? Is that okay?
No problem. So it's Rachel Blightwest.
Hello, Rachel.
Hello, how are you?
Fine, thanks.
That's good. Sorry, I'm a little bit late.
That's absolutely fine, don't worry at all. Just to let you know, we are recording the session. The session's just recorded, just been sent out to parents who can't make it. And that just helps if you ever miss a session, or like if you don't attend the beginning part, it can be sent out to everyone. So in terms of kind of sharing or contribution to the session, feel free to share information you feel comfortable sharing, but if you don't feel comfortable, that's absolutely okay. And again, kind of having your camera on or off, completely up to you.
Right, thank you.
So in the first session, we were kind of talking about the functions behind challenging behaviour. That challenging behaviour can often be a sign of a child struggling to emotionally regulate themselves. And it's really important for us as parents or carers to be able to recharge and model that emotional regulation to our children, because if they're showing this challenging behaviour and we're getting really stressed out, and then we get irritated, we get frustrated, we shout, things kind of get more and more escalated, we're modelling to our child that that's what we do when things get difficult. Whereas if we're learning to take a step back, have time to calm, or even just time to saying, this is getting too much for me, I need to take a time out, I need to go kind of have a lie down for a second, removing ourselves from the situation, we're showing our children that's how they can also cope. So if they're finding things too much, they can ask for calm time or time in their room, or they can just say, can we talk about this later? Because we aren't born with the ability to self-regulate. You think of kind of babies, you teach them to self-soothe, you teach them to kind of learn to sleep through the night and things like that, and it's just kind of a constant process of learning what to do. So that, like you said, Linda, it's really important to be able to recharge, because with a parent and kind of in a caring role, children demand so much of us, and if we're constantly giving 100%, there's no percent left over for us, and we need to have some of that percentage, otherwise we can't do the best we can in our caring role and care for our children and families. So this is the helpful techniques pyramid, which we're going through in the challenging behaviour course. Kind of last time we talked about positive attention, kind of attending to those times that your child is showing really positive kind of pro-social behaviours, and trying to ignore the ones that maybe are more negative, and seeing if that kind of notices a difference in your child's behaviour. And then today we'll be talking about kind of that really empathetic response and special time. And for this as well, kind of the ones at the bottom are the kind of the key ones we want to use most frequently, and the ones at the top is what we want to use kind of more of a last resort, or kind of if things get too much, kind of going to those. And obviously techniques don't always work all the time. As a parent, you often think you've cracked it, you've kind of got exactly what's going to work, and then the next day none of it works. So kind of keeping on going and just trying different things on different days. And kind of just knowing that you are the expert of your child, even if it doesn't always feel like it. You know them the best, and you kind of have been there for such a long time and seen so much of their development. So this session we're focusing on special time, which is kind of focusing on interaction and kind of play with your child. So in general, interaction and play is really, really important. It helps your child feel valued, it helps them feel understood. If you're just spending time with them, talking to them, playing with them, getting down with them on their level, engaging in things that they're interested in, it helps them feel like you are taking an interest in them and the things that they like. It's also a learning opportunity, playing together or interacting together, asking questions about what they're doing, kind of being involved. If they're playing on the Xbox or the PlayStation, getting them to teach you how to play the game, even if you're not very good at it. It helps them learn kind of both physically, cognitively, emotionally and socially. They're practicing their social skills with you. It's often a really good time to talk about things that maybe are a bit difficult to have just a conversation about. If they're playing or doing something else at the same time, they're often distracted, and can feel more comfortable opening up because they're not kind of sitting opposite you giving you direct eye contact. They can be drawing and talking, and they can feel that's a bit less pressure. Also kind of playing, they are exercising their body. They might be playing outside, kind of learning what their body can do, practicing kind of football skills, kind of hula hooping, anything like that, kind of just encouraging them to learn and try new things, and helps with kind of their brain development and all those kind of really great things for kids and their ongoing development, which stimulates brain development. So kind of having a think now, so what is your experience of communication and play, and thinking about kind of what helps and hinders. So depending on how old your child is, you might feel that you don't really have play time with them as such, kind of considering when they were a child, sometimes you kind of play blocks or dolls or house or things like that, whereas as they get a bit older, they might not be as interested in those things. They might still be interested in those things, but kind of every child is different. And just thinking of kind of the communication as well, is it kind of, do you spend kind of time at family dinners chatting about the day, or is kind of communication on a kind of more of a request and information sort of basis? Because kind of having a think, and if you feel comfortable sharing, please share, but if you don't, that's absolutely okay. Just having a think about what's it like in your household, or even your own personal experience with kind of your parents or your family. What was your experience of play?
I think we always talk about how's your day gone. Normally on the way home from school, sometimes it depends. It can go either way. If it's been a particularly if things haven't gone to how she expects them to go, and she's particularly found the learning hard during the day, sometimes it's not the best time to ask her, because she is very much like school, home is home.
Yeah.
Type of period, and the two shouldn't really meet. But and then so that sometimes that is the best time to do it, because then by the time like meal times and everything, she's switched off from school and everything, and so and I don't want to, if she's had a bit of a negative day, I don't want to bring it up again, because then that has a following on impact then for the rest of the evening. So
absolutely, that's so true. Our memories can be very emotion focused, and kind of especially for children, if they're recounting a story about what's happened in their day, whether they were angry, upset, when you can feel it when they're telling that story again, that emotion starts bubbling up, and it can be that repetitive cycle. And that can be very similar if there's an incident at home that you want to talk about after the event. Sometimes you need to kind of strike while the iron is cold. You need to find a time when they've calmed down enough to remember the incident, but can talk about it without getting heated up, because it can just kind of escalate it. You think of it at school, say for example a child gets a detention for something and they say, oh, but I wasn't talking, and then that detention is extended, and just because they're not in that frame of mind to kind of regulate themselves.
And sometimes that I find that quite hard, because because sometimes the incidents that we have at home is we can't deal with that day. So sometimes if I've brought it up the next day, it's a bit like she's a bit of short-term memory processing. She's forgot what had happened the day before, and she can totally deny that didn't happen, type thing. And because she doesn't, it does in her head, it doesn't play like you would hold it in your head and you'd know how it went there, but she then struggles to process that from what happened the day before. And she, like I say, she can totally deny it. No, it didn't happen like that, and everything, or it didn't even happen at all.
Absolutely. It can be really difficult, and also the same respect, you kind of want to start the day afresh, that today's a new day, and kind of start afresh,
and also that can, in that can also then put in ways the fear in you, because whatever you're going to say might then stir up a whole new another situation from something that had rolled up, that you brought up that happened yesterday. So it is trying to deal with it as near the incident as better, but sometimes the incident can then go on, and we experience meltdowns and things like that. And so there's only so many hours during the day which you can deal with it. But then it's like, then sometimes what happens that if you talk about what happened the day before, it relights that trigger.
Absolutely.
And it's like living in deja vu. It's that kind of cycle.
And it's kind of what we spoke about before, is picking your battles and thinking about sometimes you really do need to have the conversation, because a child's behavior isn't safe. For example, if they run out on the road, you do need to tell them, even if they're going to get upset, that behavior isn't right, because they could get hurt and they could be seriously injured. And then sometimes thinking about, am I having this conversation afterwards for me, or is it going to be beneficial for the child? Because you might want to tell them kind of how you felt or what's going on, but it might not be in their best interest. And then how do you cope as a parent with those feelings? Is there a way for you to let go of those feelings without having a conversation again? Is that talking to your partner or a friend, or writing it down? Because like you said, sometimes those conversations can just trigger further behaviour.
We have a very similar situation, Linda, with our son. I'm not sure how old your daughter is. Our son,
she's 9.
She's 9. Okay, so there's not a big difference. Eddie's 7, and we'll have the same, where if there's been any form of incidents or meltdowns or aggression or violence or absolutely anything, you absolutely cannot talk to him about any of it at that moment in time.
No.
But so what I've started to do, because I'm on another course at the moment which is specifically for ADHD, which is what Eddie's got, is ADHD, ODD and possibly autism. So I've started, because he loves playing anyway, Lego, make believe. He's got the most vivid imagination you can ever imagine, really. You know, the number of tall tales we get in an hour, let alone a day, is pretty incredible. But anything to do with bugs, dinosaurs, animals, anything. So now, like, I mean, it happened just last night actually. He was having a real meltdown about going to bed, and his younger sister had gone to bed. He didn't want to. He wanted to carry on playing out in his, in his sandpit. And normally, myself or my husband would be like, "No, it's bedtime." But I just said, "I'm just not having the argument. I'm not going to have that battle with him." So I went and sorted out our daughter. Paul went and took 5 because he just got too worked up. And then I went and sat on the steps outside in the garden, was just chatting. "Tell me what you've got in there then." And and he wants to show me his ants, and he likes to keep ants. So it was much calmer, and so we sat there probably only for 5 minutes, and he said, "I'm really sorry I shouted," and I said, "That's okay, thank you for saying sorry." But it's because he's just not that we've let him get away with it, as it were, but we've delayed him going to bed, and he got what he wanted in a way that he was able to carry on at the sandpit. But actually it was much more productive, because he then was able to start talking to me. And then within 5 minutes, I said, "Right, come on then, we better go and get ready. You've got school tomorrow." And he said, yeah, okay. And that was it. Whereas probably 3 months ago, it would have been an absolute battle of wills, a hopeless situation. So I think, what helps or what hinders is, it helps now, I think, the fact that we're going on courses and learning different ways to communicate with our children. The hinders definitely are, it's got to be the right time for him to talk about anything. So when he comes, he's only at school for 2 hours a day at the moment, has been for the last, since they went back at the beginning of March. If I say to him, "How was your day?" he'll just go, "Shut up." "Hello, you all right?" He's going, yeah, that's exactly it. That was a prime example. There you go. Anyway. You going up now?
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. That's helpful.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Wow. Yeah, I think those are really good examples, and absolutely kind of what Rachel said there about taking that time out and time away. And it might not be kind of the typical response that you are used to, kind of, instead of, "Okay, come on, we've got to get to bed," and keeping on going, actually taking that time away, getting on what you need to, and then revisiting it, actually kind of can work well in the overall picture. And that's kind of when we did the ABC charts, kind of for her kind of homework from session 1. Hopefully you'll see kind of the functions of behaviour there, and you can kind of pick up, okay, what helps and hinders there, kind of what behaviours are we seeing more of, are there certain triggers, are there certain kind of functions of behaviour that I'm seeing more of. And kind of, again, these are the functions of behaviour, and we're going to be looking today at kind of special time helps with the attention factor of the ABC chart. So if we're kind of seeing challenging behaviour because our child is wanting attention, like we said in the first session, it's completely natural. Children are attention needing. We often hear of attention seeking behaviour, but I like to call it attention needed, because often a child is acting up because they need support. They might act up in school because they find the work too difficult, or they just want a social interaction, or at home they might just be a bit bored, or it might be annoying their siblings, but they just want someone to play with. And special time is kind of put in place so that we eventually see less challenging behaviour for attention, because they know they're getting a set amount of attention, of kind of undivided, from the parent at some point in the day. So it kind of reduces the other challenging behaviour, because they're expecting this, to kind of feel safe in that environment of that routine, that they're going to get special time. So kind of thinking about how much one-to-one time do you spend with your child, and what does this look like? So if you've got more than one child, spending one-to-one time with each child is very, very difficult. Kind kind of for children not feeling left out or wanting to be involved in the same thing, or if it's just you at home, or if it's you and your partner and you've got 3 kids, there's just not enough bodies in the house to do kind of one-to-one time. So kind of, if you can think of how much one-to-one time do you spend with your child, is it when they're having bath time, is it when you're picking them up and dropping them at school, having a think of when do you spend one-to-one time with your child or children. And again, if you feel comfortable sharing, please do. If not, just have a think about what that looks like in your household.
I think my one-to-one time is on the school, going to school in the mornings and on the way home from school. I find that's the best time for her.
Yeah.
But and also it was the other a good thing I was thinking about the other Monday when out of the 3 of them, she was the one that had teacher training day, and she literally I was working, so she came to work with me and she spent the whole day with me. And do you know what, it was really, we chatted, it was really good and everything, but then she had me for the whole day, so then we struggled with the transition of coming back in the family home
and then sharing you again,
her sister. And literally she put one foot in the door and her whole demeanour, it just totally changed. She'd gone from being this really calm and really, it was a lovely day to, well, she might as well grown 2 horns in her head. Because it was literally, it was awful. It was literally, and I you know, I got it as well as everybody else that got it, you know, even, you know, and she was nasty, she was shouting, she was saying some horrible things, and she said, and then 10 minutes later there she said, "I'm sorry I said that to you," she says, "but it just popped, you can't control it," type thing.
Yeah, that's what I said before. The challenge of behaviour can be a result that when our children just don't know how to regulate, they can feel these feelings bubbling up to the surface, and they don't know how to diffuse it or how to kind of channel it into something else.
And that's what I've also noticed is when it's like that, it's quite, you know, it can be physical, it can be verbal. She just struggles to regulate, you know, that emotions.
So really lovely day together, spending one-to-one time and talking, but it's that transitioning back to sharing you with the family and not getting that soul attention, as that's kind of when it's, she struggled.
And sometimes it feels like it's not enough, even though she's probably sucked to dry the whole time. Sometimes it just feels it's not enough. She'd like to suck even more out of you, type thing.
Which is lovely on one hand, that she wants to spend time with you and she wants to spend all this time, but when we have to divide our attention among our children and our families and our other roles or work and things, we just can't give 100% to every person all the time. Absolutely. Like you said, that recharging is really important. Rachel, can you think of time that you spend one-to-one with your children?
Well at the moment I'm getting loads of time one-to-one with Eddie, because we've literally got from 11 until 3 every day. Which is lovely. I mean, it's definitely strengthened our relationship, there's no question. I mean, he's always been a bit of a mummy's boy, but probably even more so now. But also he's got that level of respect with me, I think, by having more time, because we are, when he gets home, he has to have structure. He needs to know what he's doing at what time, who's going to be there, etc. So every day he knows, what the plan is. When I pick him up at 11 o'clock, we'll go home. He has an hour to chill out and zone out, which he desperately needs, just to unwind from his day. Then we sit and have lunch, and then it's, well, what do you want to do this afternoon? So he gets a choice of 3 things to pick. We'll either go to the woods with the dog, we'll go out and play in the garden, you know, we'll do Lego. I just give him 3 choices. So we're getting loads of time, which is lovely, and he's definitely more considerate about how he's behaved, you know, when there is an incident, which is regularly. But once he's regulated and calmed down, the first person he wants to speak to is me, to say, sorry that's happened, I didn't mean it, or whatever, you know, whatever it is. So I think that at the moment, I think we've got a good balance. It's not ideal, obviously, because the ideal would be that it's at school, but I'm taking full advantage of the fact that we have got that extra time together.
Yeah, absolutely.
And with our youngest daughter, who is definitely becoming more and more challenging, she's 5, and we're not, I don't think that there's anything else going on. We don't really know yet, but a lot of it could be that she's mimicking what she sees her brother do. But I find it really hard to try and get one-to-one time with her, because he'll sometimes say to her, she's my mum, you know, and get really quite aggressive about it. So we try to do it when he's at football. Like, for example, he plays football every Saturday. That's all he lives for at the moment. There can only be one parent that goes at the moment because of COVID. So actually that's great, because that means I've now got an hour and a half every Saturday morning. She knows that she can pick whatever she likes, and I will do whatever she wants to do.
Yeah, that's fab. No, that's really good, and that's kind of what we're going to be talking about, as in what kind of special time is. So thank you both for sharing. So special time in itself is spending time one-to-one with your child or children for about 10 minutes every day. So kind of build, if you kind of aren't finding that you're doing any one-to-one time, starting from like 1 minute and then building up to 10. But the type of kind of special, we call it special time, but you can call it whatever you want in your household. The type of attending it needs is kind of your sole focus, completely engrossed with what your child is doing. It's actually very intense to do 10 minutes, kind of completely focused on one child. So we recommend kind of after 10 minutes, kind of cutting it there, but with children, kind of actually giving them that warning. Okay, so maybe even asking the child to look at you to make sure they're listening, being like, all right, now Jenny, it's time for us to start packing up. A special time's going to finish in 1 minute. I really enjoy playing with you today. Or actually kind of setting those boundaries. And it can be helpful before, if you've got multiple children, to sit, if possible, all down together and think, okay, we're going to start having special time one-to-one with mum and you. We're going to do it for 10 minutes or 5 minutes every day. And we're going to set up some kind of like some rules or some boundaries, or to make sure every child gets the full attention. We're going to do it in this room, or we're going to do it outside, or during this set time period. Try not to disturb us, because you don't want to be disturbed during your special time, and kind of getting that fairness across the board. Does that make sense? Yeah, so kind of setting it out there. And within special time as well, it's child-led, and you can often feel like a bit of a spare part, just kind of watching them play, but it is kind of that saying, ask them, okay, so what would you like to do today during special time? And it might be that they want to watch a program, or it might be that they want to get some blocks out, or they want to do some drawing. And when they're drawing, kind of just sitting there and watching them, giving them the whole focus. I'll go in kind of example of things that you could say, but often we say, oh, what should we draw? Should we draw a house? Oh, that's a good house. How about you draw a flower? Oh, that's a good flower. I'm going to draw one as well. And we use it as a teaching method. Oh, that's a lovely lion you're drawing. Can you spell lion? Lion. Oh, that's great. Can you write it for me? And we use it as a teaching opportunity, which is great. And all those skills that we've been taught to kind of engage our children with. But if in special time, we kind of want to push those questions and things to one side and focus on completely what they want to do. And often it can help kind of bring up any feeling, like we said before, kind of when children are playing, they can feel comfortable to bring up difficult subjects to the topic, difficult topics to the surface, and that can be a really kind of good tool. But kind of the benefits in general of special time is kind of one thing, enjoyment for you both parent and child. Often when our children are showing challenging behaviour, we can feel sometimes even resentful that we have to spend time with them, and then we can feel guilty for that. We can feel like every time we spend time with them, it just is draining, it takes a lot of energy, and they are all okay feelings to have. We have them as parents. We feel sometimes we want to shut ourselves in the bathroom and have a cry because it's all getting too much, and that's normal. Not to say it's a nice feeling to have, but it is normal. So kind of having time together helps to build up that really positive relationship, and like Rachel said, kind of her spending lots of time at home with her son at the moment has strengthened their relationship, which is fantastic. It also kind of promotes positive parent-child interaction. So if you're dedicating that 10 minutes in the day to kind of really focus on them, engage what they're doing, that should be a really positive time together, which then kind of, as we've talked about with our kind of attention table, if you focus on positive behaviours, it increases positive behaviours, whereas if we kind of ignore negative behaviours, they kind of decrease. We kind of want to see more positive behaviours, so spending that little bit of pocket of time, giving the child lots of attention, they feel safe knowing they're going to get attention each day, kind of promotes that positive interaction. Children kind of feel valued and understood, that they are leading that time, that 10 minutes, what they say goes, kind of gives them that kind of element of control, which children do like. They kind of like using it as a teaching opportunity, and kind of the thought of things that you would say kind of builds on there. If they say, oh mummy, I'm going to draw a house, and you're like, oh, I see you're drawing a house, and just showing that you're listening, that active listening, repeating phrases that they're saying back to you, just even though it might sound really silly or feel very strange at first, can be really helpful, because your child knows that you're listening because you use the same words, and that you're really paying attention to what you're doing, and you're sitting there looking at their kind of drawing or their playing or whatever it is, and you care about what they're doing. And like I kind of said, encourages pro-social behaviours. Kind of it has that social benefits that they're practicing with you, how they would kind of have a relationship with other children or other people in their lives, incorporating people, asking questions. They might, after when you have special time, often children will ask you to join in and be like, oh, can you get a bit of paper, you draw a picture, and then you can ask them, oh, what colour should I use? And then they can tell you what colour to use. Oh, what should I draw a picture of? And asking them to kind of lead in that way, and kind of encourage them to help others and include other children when they're playing in school or nursery or things like that. And it helps them to understand and manage their emotions through play. Special time is, again, child-led, and they can kind of lead where things are going, and that helps them learn how to manage their emotions through play in other fields. If they're learning, or if I ask a question, it gets a response, or if I say this, it gets this response. They're kind of just learning and kind of test the waters so they can build on their relationships and understand their emotions. And it can increase their confidence. If they're, again, leading it, they feel confident, they feel like, oh yes, my parent or carer is listening to me, they want to do things that I'm doing, they're interested in what I'm doing. Kind of spending that 10 minutes, they actually might be really concentrated on that task for 10 minutes. It's really kind of common now that children have quite short attention spans with screens. I remember kind of back at the school day when you got the TV wheeled in, watching a movie was fascinating, and you could sit there and watch a movie, but often kind of kids find it really difficult to sit through an hour and a half long movie, and much prefer a short TikTok or a YouTube video, just because they want things instantly. So kind of sitting down and maybe playing with blocks or doing a drawing or something else can help build their concentration back up. And also encourages problem solving. Often when we're playing or doing things with our children, we want to help them and do things for them because it's either quicker, or we want to kind of help them make good choices. But in special time, getting them to lead and think, okay, so those bricks aren't sticking together properly, what do you think we could do? What piece could we use instead? oh, that pen's dried out, what do you think we should do next? Instead of being like, oh, let's put it in the bin, we'll get another one. You're asking them what you think they should do. And often they do know the answers, but they just kind of want that little confidence boost of wanting to hear their opinion. And making special time happen. Like I kind of said before, especially when you've got multiple children, it's really, really hard to fit that one-to-one time in. But it's really important to have special time each day, especially on the tough days. So special time happens every day, no matter the behaviour. It's a bit like feeding your children. Just because they're being naughty one day doesn't mean that you're going to not feed them that day. It's an essential thing that they need, that attention. You might not always feel like you want to have special time with them, and it might be very difficult. But it's not to be kind of taken away as a consequence or anything like that. It's to be used every day to kind of make sure that they're getting that attention, so it reduces challenging behaviour for the rest of the time. But it doesn't mean that challenging behaviour still won't pop up. Yeah, it's one-to-one. If you've got kind of two parents or two adults in the household, that might work really well, because you can try and schedule time when kind of one person, you're both at home and you can schedule it that way. Or if you've got older children that can understand kind of boundary setting, that okay, we're going to spend 10 minutes, we're going to be in the living room, can you play upstairs for 10 minutes, and then we'll have your special time afterwards. Special time might even be just before bed, kind of wanting to read together, and giving your child your complete attention. So removing distractions, turning TV off, putting phones in the other room, just completely engaged with them. Like I said, child leads the play. Describe what the child is doing. So if whatever they've chosen to play with, oh, like, I see you've got the horse and you're putting it on the sofa. I see that you've picked a pink pencil. I see that you're doing a really long, thick line from left to right. Just, again, might sound really silly, but just showing your child really clearly that you're watching what they're doing, you're interested in what they're doing, and you understand what they're doing. Kind of observe, make some comments about what they're doing. You can praise them, say, oh, wow, I really like your picture. But really be really specific. Oh, I love those really big circles that you're doing. Oh, I love your choice of colours. But try and limit our questions if possible. Questions can make children, their thought process, pause to think of an answer to that question. Whereas if you comment, they have the choice of whether they want to respond or just listen. Whereas a question, they feel they have to pause and give you an answer, because that's the typical nature of questions. And follow their imagination. Whatever they say goes. Pigs can fly if they want to. Can kind of just encourage that really creative mindset that they have at kind of that young age. I think that's really important. So kind of you can think now, kind of, what do I say if I can't ask questions, I'm not using a teaching experience, what do I say? So we can comment on objects and actions, we can comment on emotions, social behaviours, kind of cognition, that thought process. So objects, actions, examples could be, I could see you've chosen a red car, you've got 2 horses and 1 duck, and you're putting them in the house, you're colouring the flower in blue. There's really kind of basic things. It might sound really silly, and these sorts of things will be a bit strange to say at first, but over practice it becomes more natural. Emotions, you look really proud of your tower, you have such a lovely smile on your face. That shows as well that you're seeing their face, you're seeing their facial reactions, you're kind of interpreting how they feel. They might be acting out a scene, and there's, oh, the cowboy seems frustrated, and by saying that, they might say, oh yeah, he's frustrated because, or he might say, oh no, he's sad because, or they might not say anything. But again, it leaves it open for if they want to have a conversation. But if they don't, and they just want to kind of enjoy you watching them play, and they can do it that way as well. You're staying calm even though it's difficult. So if they're trying to build a tower or something and it falls over, and they're actually managing to self-regulate, praising that and kind of understanding the difficulty. If things aren't going to plan, kind of just saying that's kind of normal. Be like, oh no, the tower fell over, that's really frustrating, isn't it? Instead of being like, oh no, it's okay, we'll build it back again. Kind of acknowledging their feelings, letting them know that it's okay to feel frustrated, feel angry, all those things. But it's just kind of how we process those feelings is what's important. Social behaviours, if they ask you to join in and they pass you a brick or a pen or a paper, or say, "Mummy, can you join in with me?" You can say things like, "Thank you for including me, thank you for passing me the pen, thank you for sharing." If you're playing a board game you're having a go, you'll say, "Oh, kind of you're waiting so patiently for your turn." They're really clear examples of praise that your children can know that those are good things to show when maybe they're at school or playing with other kids, playing with their siblings. On cognition, you're thinking really hard about how to fix that together. You're working out what to do next, and kind of praising that problem solving, that thought process of things are going on for them. Does that all make sense? Have you got any questions? Make sense? Fab. So kind of thinking now, how do you think you can implement special time, and what may make special time difficult? So kind of naturally fitting it in general might be difficult because of having the time limitations, and it might be that you don't feel that you can do it every day at the moment, and maybe it's kind of a once a week sort of thing, or a couple times a week, but it's really important not only just to do it for maybe the one child that you're seeing the majority of challenging behaviour for, trying to do it with every child, because then it kind of helps them with that fairness. It helps them also understand why is mum having special time with my brother or sister, not with me. They kind of see, oh, they're having their special time now, I've got mine in next week, or I've got mine later, or I've got mine when they've gone to bed, or I get mine on Saturday. They kind of know what to expect, and they can respect those boundaries more of, oh, I'm not going to disturb mum during special time because I don't want to be disturbed during my special time. So it kind of encourages that respect between siblings. And also thinking about kind of what may make special time difficult. If we start thinking about what may make it difficult, we can start planning kind of solutions for those difficulties, or kind of working out what we could do in those kind of tricky situations. So kind of do you feel comfortable sharing kind of how you think you could implement this into your household, or what might make it difficult?
I think it's just trying to find the balance, you know, there, because I feel not in ways I think it's not trying not to make myself feel guilty, because one of my oldest girl has severe separation anxiety from me. We have had to spend a lot of time with her and everything, due to the anxiety, and you know, she has been seen by an ed psych about it, and so in ways we've had to do that, because their anxiety leads to other behaviours, you know, that we don't want. So it's to me, it's always me. It's the attention from me that all three of them need, you know, and then trying to juggle that, you know, on full-time work, you know, as well. And I think it's just getting that balance. It's like, but like I said, because I am working the majority of the time from home, so the youngest one is getting that more for one-to-one time, because I haven't always been able to take to school due to my work. And then I do notice then because my older girls are twins, it's the other one, I noticed that we don't have one time, but then if I go off and if I try to have one-to-one time, then that sparks the one with the separation anxiety off, and everything, and then it sparks the youngest one off. So yeah, I think it's just for me, it's just trying to find that balance, and really looking how I can plan. I can plan this in. And
it can just be, like I said, it can be very difficult to plan things in, and it can be just sitting them all down and thinking, okay, this is what I want to do. And even incorporating, okay, special time for each of you, but also special time for mum, that I need 10 minutes to myself every day to recharge, and we all need to learn to like our own company and do things that we enjoy. So we're going to kind of make 10 minutes or 5 minutes special time each, kind of, and you could pick, kind of explain kind of what we've done in the slides. So kind of, you get to pick what we're doing. We'll do it for a set amount of time, and we kind of don't want to be disturbed. So your daughter with separation anxiety knows, okay, mum's got her slot with this child now, and then the next child, and then it's me, then mum's having her own time, and then I'll be able to talk to her after she's had her own time. And kind of setting it in that way, because that can help, because often children can have the answers. They can think of, actually, okay, so I want to spend more time with your sisters, but I'm worried that you're going to find it difficult being separated. What do you think we can do to make sure your sisters still have time? And she might have excellent ideas. Just kind of incorporating children into that conversation can be really helpful. I've worked with lots of children that have come up with kind of really abstract and fantastic kind of consequences for their behaviour that you wouldn't even think of, or rewards that they would like to do that have been such kind of so strange, but it works for them, and they kind of know what they like, and kind of they are experts on them as well, even though they're kind of just finding out what they want to do. Rachel, what about you?
Sorry, I'm just conscious that I can hear it's kicking off in the next room at the moment, because of course it's approaching bedtime, so my husband is there, so they're not actually just screaming to themselves.
That's okay, don't worry.
I mean, in terms of planning it, I think it's really hard, if I'm honest, for us as a family to make a plan, because it can be so volatile. But say, you know, for them to each know that they've got time, like during the week, or you know, I wouldn't be able to say on a certain day or every day it's going to be 10 minutes. I mean, to be honest, it probably happens like holistically anyway, you know.
Absolutely.
Honest, you know, she loves reading, so she's really happy when I say, right, come on then, you know, we need to do, let's have a look at your book. So she's quite happy to sit and read with me for 10 minutes. Which is, you know, so that's sort of easy. So I guess it would feel like a bit of a tick box exercise. I don't want it to be, you know,
no, that's absolutely, if you do it naturally, that's great.
But I think you know, with the eldest one, our eldest is 16, so she's just doing her GCSEs at the minute, so I'm consciously trying to get time with her anyway, because they've literally had the worst year. I mean, we've all had a rough year, but kids that are doing their GCSEs, it's just been horrendous. So I'm consciously trying to have, that's why I was a little bit late onto this call actually, was because she needed my time then. And so
absolutely, and it's whether she wants help revising, or whether she wants to have a walk outside for 10 minutes, and even if that's not talking or listening to music or doing something completely different, or a cuddle on the sofa. It doesn't have to be anything kind of wild, or kind of a really fun activity that you're going out. Just 10 minutes of your attention, it's
your time, isn't it? Now that's all, you know, that's all they want. They just want time, don't they, really? And it's like it feels like it's the hardest thing to give a lot of the time.
Absolutely.
Dragged in, you know, all directions, and
and often it can be, sometimes kind of children or kind of even teenagers can tell us about a situation that's going on, and one thing that can be quite helpful to say is, okay, would you like me to problem solve with you? Would you like me to advise, or would you like me just to listen? And quite often it is just that listening ear. And naturally, as parents, we want to problem solve. We want our children to be happy. If they're having a problem at school with their friends, that, or we want to kind of justify the parent. Oh, well, if your friend said that, maybe they've got a lot going on, because you know that their parents are having a difficult time, or you know something else that they might not know. And sometimes they can get really annoyed because they actually just want you to listen instead of kind of helping them problem solve. So just asking them, okay, would you like me to listen, or would you like me to offer you advice? So you kind of, you know what your expectations is as well, because often when we are in conversations with each other, with our friends, we're thinking about what we want to say next, and we're not always listening. And that can be really kind of key with our children, especially in special time. kind of doing it in this way, being really child-led, we think, okay, what should I be saying? Kind of looking over notes of like the perfect parent, what do they say, how do they play with their children, all that sort of thing. And often it's just sitting there, being there, kind of maybe even being quiet and just watching, and that's enough. But yeah, no, that sounds great. Thank you for sharing, both. Yeah, so kind of home practice sort of wise, is to think of kind of a special time diary. It doesn't have to be anything as kind of full as this, but thinking of in the next week, you could plan in advance, or you can just write it kind of afterwards, but kind of a date and time that works. For some people it might be mornings, it might be afternoons, it might be just before bed. If you're going to plan an activity, some children really like structure and want to plan their activity, like, oh, today for special time, can we do reading? Or would you like to pick your, even ask them, would you like to pick your activity, special time activity for this week? And what day would you like to do it on? And then thinking about kind of what sort of things were you commenting on? How did your child respond to these sorts of things? Kind of, as we said before, some techniques can work really well some days. Special time might be excellent one day, and the next time you might have special time and they might kick off. And we don't know kind of exactly why, but kind of thinking about how they respond. And then also, how did you find special time? Did you find it difficult? Was it, did they have a difficult day with them, and actually sitting there giving them your attention when you felt like maybe they didn't deserve it that day? It was really tough for you, or did you actually really enjoy it? Or did you feel that you were really distracted because you were thinking about what to have for dinner? Absolutely nothing. There's no right or wrong answer, but kind of keeping a record for yourself can be really helpful. To work out what a time, maybe kind of if you have special time in the afternoons, you actually really enjoy it, but if it's too late in the evenings, you find it a bit too intrusive on kind of bedtime. When we start a special time, often the first couple of times that we do it, as special time ends, it's really important to give that warning, maybe 2 minutes before, then 1 minute before, because once they've had our sole attention for that 10 minutes, when we come to an end, a bit like Linda was saying with work, when you come home, that transition out, you might experience a change in behaviour because they're upset that they're not getting that time again. And just reassuring, being like, oh, I really enjoyed doing whatever activity it was today. I can't wait for our next special time. And you don't have to call it special time. You can call it whatever you want in your household. It can be kind of but yeah, absolutely. And playtime, it can be kind of one-to-one time. It can be the kind of, if your child's name, so it'd be, for me it'd be Caroline time. And then for as a parent, you have your own special time, like mummy time. Absolutely anything, but kind of know if they know when to expect kind of the next dose of special time, that can be really helpful as well, so they kind of know it's going to happen again. But as kind of you get into a routine of it, you notice the kind of behaviours should typically decrease. But yeah, so kind of start doing a special time diary, and remembering positive attention, so praising the things that they're doing really well naturally, and really important as well, remembering to recharge yourself, having your own special time. You might have to schedule it in with your children's as well, but that's really important, that you kind of have a little pocket of time every day if possible, just for you. If that's just kind of a couple of minutes drinking a cup of tea while it's still hot for the whole time, and not just kind of left on the side, or kind of just taking a second outside, or just lying down on the sofa for a couple of minutes, or listening to a song, dancing around your kitchen, kind of whatever works for you. That's kind of really important. Fab. So just in the chat as well, in the chat function, if you could put in kind of the feedback for today's session. So thinking about this week, how are you feeling this week from 0 to 10? So if 0 was it's been a kind of a really difficult week, not feeling very good, and 10 is it was a brilliant week, and 5 was so-so. Kind of how have you been feeling this week in yourself? And then for the group goal, which is to learn more about challenging behaviour and different ways to help manage your child's behaviour, again from 0 to 10. So 0 kind of finding it kind of you don't know much about challenging behaviour or ways to manage it, and 10 feeling like you've got it down. And then a personal goal. So we set personal goals in session 1, focused on something specific regarding your child's challenging behaviour. So it could be anything from kind of like reducing temper tantrums to encouraging their sleep, or absolutely anything. Or it could be another personal goal, thinking about how you're getting on with that. So if you could just write that in the chat, that would be great. But I'm just going to stop recording because we finished for today. If I can find how to stop it.